In this video, we're going to talk about the two big reasons seniors and people who feel like seniors don't want to do push-ups. We're going to talk about how to deal with these objections, these excuses, these rationalizations, and these perfectly legitimate reasons for not wanting to do push-ups. So you will understand by the end of this video how to get stronger, even if your body and your mind are screaming at you not to do push-ups. So if you're ready, let's get ready to think right, move right, and feel right. So I recently made a video about the top 2 upper body exercises for seniors, and one of them was the push-up. And there were a bunch of comments about the push-up that I want to highlight here because they will elucidate and illuminate some of the key problems that show up when you try to do push-ups or any new exercise, whether you're a senior or just an adult who feels like a senior. So the first reason you end up not wanting to do push-ups is illustrated by this comment, Yves Benoit, who says, "Those damn push-ups, the most difficult exercise for anyone. What percent of the population can do them? But physical therapists still push them to unfit seniors in their routines. I have osteoarthritis in my wrists and hands, mostly thumbs. Putting my 125-pound body on my fragile wrists is not only painful, it is dangerous. I am rather annoyed at your recommendations." The biggest, most legitimate reason you can have for not doing the push-ups is pain, physical discomfort. That is actually a pretty good, legitimate warning sign that you should be at least very careful, and probably it's safe to be reluctant about doing push-ups. Another commenter, Conscious Ecus, says, "Push-ups are painfully brutal for those of us who have bone and disc degeneration in our cervical vertebra and injuries." So let's get really clear about this. If you experience intense physical discomfort or pain when doing any new exercise, you're probably doing it at a level that's too hard and too intense, especially if you are a senior. If you're trying to do a push-up and you feel like your hands and wrists are about to break and your whole body is shaking and everything hurts when you try it, then you're doing it at a level that is just plain too hard that your body is not prepared for. So when I talked about doing push-ups in that previous video, I mentioned doing regressions, meaning use a countertop, a really high surface, so that you can do the push-up at an easier angle that doesn't cause pain and discomfort. Now, that doesn't mean that using a higher surface is going to get rid of all the pain you might experience in your hands and wrists. So you might have to be a little bit creative about how you work with the push-up regressions to eventually build the strength to do push-ups all the way down on the floor. But why not just say push-ups are bad and never do push-ups? Because being able to do a push-up is a life-changing and potentially life-saving skill. You don't want to be stuck on the ground because you fell on the floor and are not able to even lift your upper body up enough to be able to shift and maybe get a leg here so that you can stand up. You also don't want to be stuck in bed and unable to get out of bed because you no longer have the upper body strength to push yourself up. Being able to do a push-up means you're going to be able to take care of your body and be more independent in the long run. You're a grown adult now, and you have been given the gift of wisdom and perspective that comes from living a long life. You should now have seen enough times what happens when you get too focused on the short-term assessment and you don't look beyond your own nose to see what's coming in the future. You've probably seen friends or family members who can't see beyond their own noses and never plan ahead, and their lives probably didn't turn out that great unless they got lucky and hit the lottery. So let's put some of your wisdom and forward thinking to good use here. The only way to avoid the negative outcomes I just talked about is to actually find ways to work around your current physical limitations safely and comfortably so that you can eventually do push-ups. If it feels like your wrists and hands and fingers can't handle being in a push-up position, you might need to regress things and give yourself some different grip options. You might need to use a chair or a bench that allows you to grip like this, and maybe you can't even work on doing a push-up for a while. You might need to just hold this position for 30 seconds or a minute, or maybe it's less. Maybe it's 10 seconds and you feel like you're really tired and that's all you can do. That's fine. The point here is you need to figure out what you can do comfortably without pain. That's going to help you build the strength and coordination that allows you to go further. You want to break down any exercise into its component parts. The first part of your push-up is just being able to hold your weight in this position, and this might not be doable if you haven't been practicing practicing something like this in a long time. And again, this is where your wisdom comes into play, because you can give yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit of patience and say, you know what? I haven't really been doing this, so of course this is going to be hard. Of course this is going to be tough. I'm just going to work on this for now, and maybe in a couple weeks, I'll work on doing a little bit of a push-up and a little bit of a push-up. And maybe as my hands and wrists get a little more comfortable, I'll try to challenge them a little bit into more of that bent position and just see if they can handle 3 seconds or 5 seconds, and then gradually turn that into 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and maybe then I'll be able to do a little bit more of a push-up comfortably. And when I say this, it's gonna sound really obvious because you've probably seen this same pattern happen a million times in your long life. If you don't challenge your body, if you don't present some sort of stimulus to make something be better, it's not gonna get better. If you choose to just sit around and avoid anything that causes any kind of discomfort whatsoever and never challenge yourself to get better at those uncomfortable positions, your only position is going to be sitting and lying down, and eventually both of those positions are going to get uncomfortable too when all your muscles atrophy. Another good option would be to get something like a light dumbbell and regress things so that you're not using all of your body weight on top of your hands and wrists. So you could have a dumbbell and you could be lying on the floor or on the bed, and you can just work on doing the pressing motion, right? You can use 2 dumbbells if you got 2, or just do 1 at a time and get used to that. Let your hands, wrists, arms, shoulders get used to a nice full range of motion that feels comfortable and safe. Don't go that far down. Use a lighter weight if you need to, and gradually over time, use more weight. And I can't stress the word gradually too much. You need to go slowly and make sure you're not hurting yourself. Dumbbells can also be useful if you've got a pair of them, and then you can just put your hands around the dumbbell and then you can do your push-up like this. That takes away a lot of the bend in your wrists, and it removes a lot of the load that your fingers and wrists would have to bear. But don't think that's the full solution, because ultimately you want to be able to function with your hands and wrists and fingers being able to bear a load. So make sure that you're also doing things like gently increasing the flexibility in your fingers, reminding the muscles and the tendons and everything in your hands and forearms that this is a perfectly natural position that when you were a kid didn't really cause an issue. It's just over time, as you stopped using those pieces of range of motion, you lost them, and that kind of accumulated into more and more stiffness that turned into total immobility over the decades. Again, this needs to be done gently and mindfully. You don't want to force yourself into horrible, terrible pinching pain. You want to go into positions where it feels a little bit challenging, but doable and safe. Maybe you put your fingers this way and you shift forward a little bit. Just find the angles that feel doable. You could have your fingers pointed sideways, and then you can shift side to side, again staying in a pain-free range of motion where you can just feel some of these muscles getting used to the new range of motion. And before we talk about the next stuff that Conscious Equus brought up, we need to talk about the second major reason you don't want to do push-ups. And hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, I want to ask you a favor. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons right now. For every like and subscribe I get from now to the end of 2024, I'm going to donate 1 cent to the Wounded Warriors nonprofit. So if you hit like and you hit subscribe, that's 2 cents that's going to the Wounded Warriors. So I appreciate your support. It helps the channel and it's going to help the Wounded Warriors. Thanks so much. Let's get back to it. And the second big reason you don't want to do push-ups is ego, because once you start feeling that pain, you start feeling that discomfort, you immediately start coming up with ideas that give you reasons to stop. You create identities around this pain, and you create excuses that stop you from looking beyond this short-term discomfort, and that stops you from making any sort of progress. For example, the commenter Eve experiences a lot of pain when trying to do push-ups, and nobody's ever shown her regressions that will actually help her build towards doing it properly. And so when she feels that pain and discomfort, she immediately jumps into rationalizations about this exercise and starts saying, well, it's the most difficult exercise for anyone, and what percentage of the population can even do it? It can't be that many people, and if other people can't do it, why should I have to do it? Then she says, putting my 125-pound body on my fragile wrists is not only painful, it is dangerous. None of these modes of thought are illogical, and none of them are to be laughed at and derided. These are things that our minds do to protect us. When we feel discomfort, we start looking for bigger reasons why we shouldn't do this thing, and we become tied up in this whole identity structure that keeps us from growing beyond our current limits. Conscious EQ use also does a similar thing in identifying as somebody who has bone and disc degeneration in the C-spine and injuries that are not exactly specified. Again, he focuses on how painfully brutal push-ups are for people in this group that he is a part of and will always be a part of. But in all likelihood, there are probably some regressions and workarounds and stretches and exercises he could do for his shoulders and neck in order to free up range of motion and become able to do at least some easier version of push-ups without them being painfully brutal. But because our egos get all tied up in how we can't do this thing and therefore we shouldn't do this thing and also we shouldn't even bother trying to do this thing, we end up in this situation where we just never can do this thing. So for somebody who has neck issues, it's important to remember that there are muscles that literally join the neck to the shoulders, and you could call those muscles shoulder muscles or neck muscles, but if you're ignoring them, not stretching them, not strengthening them in a balanced way, you're gonna have neck problems, and a doctor who's not concerned about your muscles at all is just going to tell you you have some things that'll never be fixed. Which is why I again say ATM, always think muscles. Because the muscles up here are what control the range of motion and whether or not you feel comfortable in your daily life and whether you can do things like push-ups or turn your head. If you find it difficult to do simple things like turning your head, looking up and back or whatever, or even opening up your shoulders like this, then you know that the muscles have trouble right now. You could of course buy into this belief that, well, you've just degenerated your bones and discs so badly that there is no hope of recovery. But again, if you fall into that trap, you will never make any sort of progress whatsoever. If you instead ATM, always think muscles, and work on the muscles around your head, neck, and shoulders, then you might actually make progress as long as you do it slowly, safely, and gradually. Remember, please, slow is safe and fast is foolish. Which brings me to another good comment from My Zen Life in Nature, which is, be careful. I had done years of resistance training, but a year ago, a single push-up was a strain and hurt my elbow. 1 year later, still painful despite physio, really has set me back. Now, obviously, I feel really bad for My Zen Life in Nature because an elbow strain and injury sucks. Any kind of injury can take literally years to figure out and undo. And that's why it's important to be careful, to be mindful, and to keep the intensity level of your exercises much lower, especially as you get older. If you don't know your body well, you don't want to be doing the intense version of any exercise. The risk-reward ratio is way, way off. So if you're just starting off with something like push-ups, use the easiest possible version you can find, which I talked about in that previous video, and don't try to do a push-up on the floor if it's at all questionable whether or not you can do it. The same goes for things like squats. If you don't think you can squat down to the floor and it feels real tenuous even when you're only a quarter of the way down, then you really should not slam down into it and hope for the best, because you'll probably hurt yourself pretty badly. And if you're a senior, you probably don't need me to tell you that doctors and physios are just gonna look at you kind of like, when you tell them that you'd like to get all your strength and flexibility back, because they believe once you're over the age of 50, it's all straight downhill. You can't build muscle, you can't build flexibility. You're just going to slowly disintegrate, and there's nothing you can do about it. Having seen what was possible physically for my mom in her mid-70s and having seen some of the very inspiring comments on my YouTube channel, I can tell you pretty confidently that if you put in some work, you can make some improvement to your body. Even if you have some elbow strains, you have some aches and pains, it's really important to gradually work on things so that you can learn about how your body functions so that you can fix these little tweaks. And if you're already retired, you've got nothing but time to be focusing on learning how your body works and how to make it feel better. So what's your excuse? And before we get to the final comment, I just want to recap that the two big reasons you don't want to do push-ups are physical discomfort and then the weird monkey mind excuses that your ego comes up with. So you don't want to let either of those two big reasons stop you. You want to be smart. You want to take a long view and work safely, slowly, gradually, and mindfully towards building your body towards the push-up. So this final comment from Boo Boo Snafu shows us the result of taking a more proactive approach to your push-ups. Boo Boo Snafu says, truly love this. So much is out there for the young and fit. Been there, lost it, life happens. Getting it back is hard. Too many of us go too hard. We get disappointed and give up. A month ago, I couldn't do a single push-up. Had to do your start easy way. I still can't do a single push-up. I'll get there, but I can do more of the easy versions. But what I really notice is I feel more in my body. I feel I fit it better. I remember this feeling. I never even noticed when I lost it. My balance is better, coordination, movement, all starting to flow rather than be effort. Thank you for doing videos like this. Some of us lost our mojo years ago and need a safe and doable routine that won't damage us or make us feel ashamed and weak compared to what we once were. This comment ties right into what we were talking about with ego earlier. When we discover that we're too weak to do something, that something is too hard, something that we thought we could do or we imagined we could do or we remember that we could do in the past, it's really easy to fall into a sense of shame, embarrassment, helplessness, and even hopelessness. But what this comment shows you is that with time, with effort, with a little bit of patience, you can start to reconnect to your body, rebuild that strength, and get that life back and rebuild your body, its strength, its connection, so that your life improves. So thanks Boo Boo Snafu for sharing your experience with the push-up and with your connection to your body. I hope it helps other people connect with their bodies too. Wherever you are in your journey, I hope you remember that slow is safe and fast is foolish. Don't push yourself into pain. Just take your time and gradually take the gains as they come. Gradually. Also, if you're a senior who is looking for a program to help you train in a smart, safe, slow way at home, go to uprighthealth.com/seniors and sign up for the interest list. The more seniors who tell me they want this program, the sooner I will make the program, and I will make it affordable because I understand not all seniors are living in the Bahamas in their boats or mansions. I saw firsthand how inactivity and atrophy affected my parents as they were aging, and I want to make something that can help seniors stay stronger and stay more independent for the long run. So if that sounds like something that you would like, then please go to uprighthealth.com/seniors, drop in your email, and I'll let you know when I've made the program. In the meantime, I've got some free videos that I'll link to in the description box that'll help you if you're a senior or you just feel like a senior. And if you'd like to support this channel, go to uprighthealth.com/donate for some simple, easy options to help support content like this one. You can also enjoy some free follow-along workouts right here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to help support me and the Wounded Warriors. Thanks so much, and as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't.